3, 2, 1.
PAIRWORK partner.
Hi everyone, my name is Doreen Punsingmei. My metric number is 286757. Today, my partner and I from UUN, we are going to explain about nature and talk about factors and effects of the flood. Welcome my partner to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Lim N. My matrix number is 2x6469. We hope you all can pay attention to watch this video until the end. Now, let us start our presentation.
What is nature?
According to dictionary, nature is the phenomena of the physical world collectively, including plants, animals, the landscape, and other features and products of the earth, as opposed to humans or human creations. Nature, in the broader sense, is equivalent to the natural world, physical world, or material world. Nature refers to the phenomena of the physical world and also to life in general. It ranges in scale from the subatomic to the cosmic. The term nature may refer to living plants and animals, geological processes, weather, and physics, such as matter and energy. The term is often refers to the natural environment or wilderness. Wild animals, rocks, forests, beaches, and in general areas that have not been substantially altered by humans or which persist despite human intervention. For example, manufactured objects and human interaction are generally not considered part of nature unless qualified as, for example, human nature or the whole of nature. This more traditional concept of nature implies a distinction between natural and artificial elements of the earth, with the artificial as that which has been brought into being by a human consciousness or a human mind.
Why do we choose this topic?
We chose this topic because it is a hot issue that has happened in Malaysia recently, besides COVID-19. As we know, the end of every year is the rainy season in Malaysia, which runs from October to December. This rainy season has brought concern to Malaysians because floods may occur during this period, further disrupting many people's lives each year, and personal tragedies due to flooding occur frequently. Every Malaysian should emphasize this issue as well. Therefore, we decided to take this topic and talk about the flood. We hope that we can make a small effort to raise awareness among Malaysians and also attract public attention to this current issue in Malaysia.
Flood in Malaysia.
As we all know, due to the special geographical location in Malaysia, natural disasters such as tsunami rarely occur in Malaysia. However, due to the impact of the monsoon in Malaysia, there will be more rainfall between October and March, and which will lead to the floods. And Malaysia has been hit by flood from 1969 until this year 2022.
Flood in Malaysia in 1971.
On January 1971, Kuala Lumpur flood was a major flash flood disaster in Malaysia. The flooding was the result of heavy monsoon rains, which swelled the Klang and Gombak River.
Flood in Malaysia in December 2021.
On 16 December 2021, a tropical depression made landfall on the eastern coast of Peninsular Malaysia, bringing torrential downpour throughout the peninsula for 3 days. The resulting flood affecting 8 states across the country. Widespread damages were reported in many states, and this is the worst flood in Malaysia in the past of 45 years.
What is the flood?
Wee! Whoa! Wee! Oh my! This is a flood! Help! Help!
What is the flood? Flood are a natural event in which a rising and overflowing of a body of water, especially onto normally dry land. There are 3 types of flood, such as fluvial flood, and coastal flood. The first one is fluvial flood, or we call it river flood. It occurs when the water level in a river, lake, or stream rise and overflow onto the surrounding bank and neighboring land. The water level rise could be due to excessive rain or snowmelt. The next one is pluvial flood, or we call it flash floods. Pluvial flood occurs when an extreme rainfall event creates a flood independent of an overflowing water body. After that, flash floods are characterized by heavy rain falling into nearby or nearby highland for a short period of time, triggering intensive high-speed torrents. However, flash floods are very dangerous and destructive. The last one is the coastal flood. Coastal flooding is the inundation of land area along the coast by seawater. Common causes of coastal flooding are intensive windstorm events occurring at the time as the high tide, or we call it storm surge, and tsunami.
Factor of the flood.
The factor of the flood can divide into two parts, the natural factor and the human factor. So I will explain the natural factor first. The first point under natural factor is continuous rains. Continuous rains without stopping can cause flooding. In low area, rainwater will flow into the river. The river filled with water will overflow, causing lowland area to be flooded. The second factor under natural factor is climate change. Due to an increased level of human-produced greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the world's climate is changing and getting warmer. Among many others climate change impacts, some regions are now experiencing increased precipitation and flooding. Scientists, of climate activists, and the media have largely made connection of this disaster as an example of extreme weather attributed to climate change. The last factor of the flood that are under natural factor is relief. Relief refers to the difference in the height between the highest point and the lower points of lands. When the rain falls, the sulfur runoff can move very quickly from mountains or high area to low-lying area and make that low-lying area more prone to flooding. The next one is the factor of the flood that are caused by human factor. The first factor is deforestation. Deforestation can be defined as the large-scale removal of trees from forests or other lands for the facilitation of human activities. The lack of vegetation encourages the water to flow over the sulfur rather than infiltrate into the soil, thus increasing sulfur runoff. The second factor is poor garbage disposal. Oftentimes, the garbage that is not properly disposed of enters into drainage system and clog drains. This obstructs the free flow of the water that enters into that drain, causing the water to back up during the rainfall, flooding, and the surrounding area. A build-up of garbage can also obstruct the natural flow of water in rivers and streams. The last factor is urbanization. Urbanization leads many areas to become more modernized. Lowland area has been reclaimed by taking land from the hills. There are also small rivers that fill out to be used as a building site. Activities such as that are a common factor of flooding. In the past, creek and barrier turned into the water flow. Now the area has been covered with salt. When it rains, the water will flow from the hills to the lower area and then stagnant. Eventually, the water will increase and the flash flood will occur. Lastly, this is all the information about the factor of the flood.
Effects of the flood.
Here are some negative effects of the flood on the natural environment. Destruction of the local flora and fauna populations. Floods can destroy the local flora and fauna populations and disrupt delicate ecosystems. Floodwaters will destroy large acres of natural vegetation, and this can be home to many species of flora and fauna. Contaminated floodwater polluting their habitats and cause many animals die during a flood because their habitats have been destroyed. Also, floods will destroy places where wildlife might have breeding grounds. Pets and wild animals may migrate to densely populated areas and cause much havoc. Higher levels of flooding may also kill animals on low-lying ground. Additionally, plants that survive the initial flood may die due to being inundated with water. Trees can be uprooted by high-velocity water flow. If a flood is large enough, it can result in a loss of wildlife and biodiversity in the flooded region. This may reduce the level of biodiversity, habitat potential, and food present in the ecosystem, creating long-term impacts for surviving flora and fauna. Affect aquatic life. A more significant risk comes from the substances floodwaters tend to spread. Gas, oil, biohazardous waste, trash, and even nuclear waste can spread from miles from their point of origin. Unpredictable floods can be harmful to aquatic life because floodwater containing pollutants flows into the rivers and even the sea, result in lowering water quality. Even slight changes to river temperature and water patterns can upset natural ecosystem. Erosion of land. When there is too much rainwater, especially after seasonal rainfalls, the water in the river overflows and travels to the surrounding land or area. Places near rivers and bodies of water are always at risk of floods. As floodwater recedes, there will be massive erosion of land due to fuel processes and as a result of materials such as debris being dislocated and transported over ground. Increased soil erosion result in a changed physical landscape. Destruction of human habitats. Immediate impacts of flooding include loss of human life, damage to home and properties, and non-functioning of infrastructure facilities. The high velocity of water brings large particles including rocks. This causes erosion of buildings, bridges, levees, and lead them to collapse. Flood water will be carrying huge amounts of pollution and silt that will destroy and wash away several households like furniture, store food materials, and electronic devices. Floors and walls moreover ruined. Flood also carry away automobiles, vehicles, castles, and also humans in their way. People can get trapped in their houses by the quick rising waters. People can also be injured or killed by flooding. Lots of people lose their family members due to such incidents. Transport networks can be affected, such as flood damage to bridges, railways, and roads. Natural levees and river banks can also be ruined as rivers reach their bank full capacity, and this will alter the landscape and habitat. Riverbed erosion and sedimentation. Riverbed erosion is caused by high-speed floodwater that exceeds riverbanks. The impact of riverbed erosion is most felt in developed and urban areas. Sedimentation may act as a form of non-point source water pollution that can clog rivers and streams as well as reduce the storage capacity for wetlands and dams. Floodwater carries a vast quantity of sediments, leaving behind deposits after the water recedes. If the impact is extreme enough, sedimentation in floodwater can degrade water quality and temporarily affect municipal, industrial, and the supply of water to humans. Cause water pollution. Debris, nutrients, plastics, and different pollutants can be found in floodwater. Contaminants such as pesticides, bacteria, and chemical reagents diffuse can be carried far distances. Sedimentation and turbidity can result in the growth of algae and phytoplankton blooms that quickly reducing water quality. The contaminated water will spread quickly over an area. The most common debris found include stones, trees, and pieces of destroyed property that end up affecting the water quality of rivers and seas. Damage of agricultural lands. Large quantities of water can negatively affect natural and ranching and farming habitats. Silt and sediment in floodwater can destroy crops on farms and loss of livestock. Livestock unable to relocate to higher ground in time will wash away by floodwaters or forced to stand in polluted water until rescued. Damage of destruction of agricultural lands and crops affect the entire population, yet it majorly affects agricultural laborers and cultivators. This also leads to a high price of food products in the market. A large amount of soil erosion also takes place due to the intense flow of water. Sometimes, subsequent floods result in scarcity of crop materials and drought conditions arise. However, flooding has some positive impact on the natural environment. Returning nutrients to soil. Floods can distribute and deposit large amounts of water and suspended river sediment over vast areas of land. In many areas, these river sediments help replenish nutrients in topsoil and make agricultural lands more fertile. Additionally, soil deposited by floodwaters prevents erosion and helps maintain the elevation of land masses above sea level. Important nutrients and mineral deposits can also be dispersed by floodwater, resulting in improved plant growth and overall ecosystem health. Over time, the nutrients, organic material, and sediment carried by floodwaters and deposited on the landscape can provide fertility benefits. Renewal of wetlands. Floods contribute to the health of ecologically important wetland areas. Healthy wetlands promote healthy water supplies and even affect air quality. Floods inundate wetlands with fresh waste. They also carry and deposit nutrient-rich sediments that support both plant and animal life in wetlands. In addition, flooding adds nutrients to lakes and streams that help support healthy fisheries. Recharge and replenish surface and groundwater. Floods can bring water back to dry. Floods will ensure that there is water for irrigation or for drinking water in dry places. The replenishment of supplies can benefit soil, resulting in healthy crops and pastures. Besides, many population centers depend upon groundwater and underground aquifers for fresh water. Flood waters absorb into the ground and percolate down through the rock to recharge these underground aquifers, which supply natural springs, wells, rivers, and lakes with fresh water.
Conclusion.
Floods are so dangerous. Even a mild flood affects everyone in some fashion. This incident made us learn the biggest lesson of life, which is prevention is better than cure. Flood prevention is really something left out to cities and towns. And thus, we must take previous awareness as well as control measures in order to prevent huge socio-economic loss. Several outbreaks took place just after the flooding condition and impacted human life to another level. Therefore, we should cooperate with our government to avoid such devastating natural disasters as much as possible. Fortunately, there's always hope after a flood.
Thanks for watching.